This case took place in the United Kingdom in 2022. The central figure was Anthony Stocks, born in the early 1970s, and at the time of the incident, he was 54 years old. Anthony was from Peterborough. While little information exists about his childhood or background, during the trial, it was confirmed that Anthony had experienced a troubled childhood. He had poor educational attainment and a very low IQ of 54, indicating serious cognitive limitations. Anthony attended a special school and graduated without any qualifications, though he could still distinguish right from wrong. You are watching the Crime Channel, where we explore the most mysterious cases, thrilling stories, and coming soon. The Crime will bring you true criminal cases that shocked public opinion and notorious criminals. The Crime Channel's link will be in the description below. Please stay tuned, and as usual, before we start decoding today's case mysteries, please leave a like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to not miss any videos from true crime and real crime. Thank you very much. Anthony had only one legal violation when he was young for theft. According to court reports, he had been married twice before turning 49. Anthony never had official employment, but worked as an extra in some famous films like Fantastic Beasts, 2016, and Solo in the Star Wars series, 2018. He seemed to be a person with limited knowledge, but a relatively stable personality who hardly harmed anyone. However, everything changed in 2020 when Anthony began watching suggestive content, particularly intimate scenes between young women and older men. It became his habit, and things gradually grew darker. Anthony began befriending a family whose members requested anonymity. According to reports, this family had parents, a 10-year-old daughter, and an 8-year-old son. Reports showed that the family didn't care for or nurture their children. The children weren't sent to school, and the parents showed no love or concern for them. As Anthony became closer to this family, he shifted his attention to the young girl. He began courting her with seemingly romantic gestures, like giving gifts and sweet talk. He would greet her by making heart signs and expressing, "I love you." Knowing the girl lacked care and love from her family, Anthony found it easier to approach her. One day he brought gifts and offered to take her to the park. The girl felt she couldn't refuse his kindness and agreed. However, she had no idea what evil intentions lay behind those sweet words and actions. In late 2020, Anthony asked the girl to hold his hand in public. This action initially seemed harmless, but then he led her into secluded bushes in the park and began kissing her. Not stopping there, Anthony continued touching her and forcing her to comply with his demands. Afterward, whenever he knew the girl was at the park, Anthony would appear, prevent her from playing with friends, and pull her into the bushes to perform those terrible acts. Each time, the girl felt angry, sad, and extremely uncomfortable, but she didn't know who to ask for help. This could have been due to fear of terrible consequences after speaking out or thinking she had no one to rely on. This painful reality clearly reflected the lack of emotional support and care from her family. However, the girl still had someone she always trusted, her brother. She told her brother everything Anthony had done and the fear she had experienced. She was desperate and needed her brother to protect her. Although severely traumatized, the terrible things didn't leave the girl alone. Anthony continued abusing her, but this time, her brother bravely stepped in to prevent it. Whenever he saw Anthony leading his sister into the bushes, the boy would vigilantly follow to ensure his sister wasn't harmed. The boy even confronted Anthony and asked why he was kissing his sister. Anthony made excuses that he was just getting closer to hear what the girl was saying. Though uncomfortable, the brother remained steadfast and determined to protect his sister. He wasn't afraid of danger to stop Anthony's evil behavior. But the question is, why didn't both of them tell their parents about these things? During 3 years of abuse, Anthony became increasingly irritated by the brother's presence. To prevent the boy from coming to the park, Anthony punctured his bicycle tires. Despite this, the brother always found ways to come and protect his sister. In private conversations with the girl, Anthony began talking about wanting to permanently remove her brother. At this time, Anthony was attending psychological counseling and told his counselor that he wanted to marry the girl. Anthony also kept videos of her on his iPad and watched them repeatedly every day. His obsession with controlling the girl grew larger, and finally, his threats to harm her brother became reality. Anthony began searching for locations to stage an accidental incident to eliminate the boy. Anthony's plan was to push the boy from a height and pretend it was just an unfortunate accident. Once completed, he could freely approach the girl. Thinking turned to action. He planned to lure both siblings to a quarry in Oxford. Initially, he thought this would be an ideal location, but then realized they had no legitimate reason to be there. And if an accident occurred, it would raise suspicions. At this time, the boy was 10 and the girl 13 years old. The first plan failed, but Anthony didn't give up and began planning again. Anthony told the girl that her brother was like a thorn in his eye, and he would remove it as soon as possible. He even shared his plan to push the boy from a bridge near Brighton. The girl kept this frightening information until Anthony offered to take her brother to visit Chelsea Stadium in London. She realized Anthony was trying to lure her brother away. Finally, she revealed Anthony's plan to her brother. But at that time, he was only 10 years old, and visiting a football stadium was an exciting opportunity he couldn't refuse. This would be his first time there and might not have a second chance. Despite knowing the danger, the boy agreed. Notably, Anthony spent all night preparing for the plan. His phone records showed that from 4:30 a.m. to 7:10 a.m., he made 51 calls to different taxi services in London. Clearly, Anthony was frantically calling taxis just to book one ride to the train station. His intention was clearly to arrange a long journey, possibly from London to Brighton, to carry out his evil plan. That day, the boy and Anthony set off for London while the girl stayed home. When they arrived, they toured the stadium, and the boy was very excited, telling the guide he was having fun. After the tour, Anthony suggested going somewhere with beautiful scenery. The naive boy, unaware of the approaching danger, was gradually drawn in by Anthony's kindness. Unfortunately, he had forgotten his sister's warning from before. The two got into the pre-booked taxi and went to Ovingdean in Brighton. To visualize, the Ovingdean cliffs are similar to the White Stone Pass in Hoa Binh province of Vietnam, with steep faces and very dangerous conditions. The cliff here is about 30 meters high, equivalent to a 10-story building. At the foot of the cliff is a layer of gravel, and in front is a concrete pathway. At the cliff top is a green grass area surrounded by fencing and 2 layers of wire. On the grass is a bench for viewing the sea. When Anthony and the boy approached the cliff, the girl called Anthony, begging him not to harm her brother. But Anthony didn't care. His obsession with control had made him lose all reason. Anthony led the boy past the safety fence and toward the cliff edge. Witnesses later reported seeing the two walk toward the edge, and then, in a horrifying moment, they saw the boy fall from the cliff onto the gravel. Everyone heard the terrifying scream and then the impact sound when he fell from the 30-meter cliff. Anthony had intentionally pushed the boy off the cliff with the intention of taking his life. Fortunately, the boy didn't fall onto the concrete, but falling onto gravel wasn't much better. He was severely injured with a scalp laceration, multiple bruises, a broken left arm, shoulder deformity, and internal injuries, including damage to the spleen and kidneys. People quickly called an ambulance, and a rescue helicopter rapidly transported the boy to the hospital. At this point, the boy's life was in critical condition. At one point, his heart stopped, and doctors had to perform intensive resuscitation. Doctors decided to put him in a medically induced coma for several weeks to stabilize his condition. Fortunately, the boy survived this horrific incident. No one knows exactly if there was any struggle because the boy's memory faded after reaching the wire fence. When the boy was pushed down, Anthony quickly went down to the foot of the cliff. He tried to slip through the crowd, but was stopped. Witnesses reported Anthony's reaction was very calm. These witnesses later told police that Anthony showed no signs of panic or worry. Instead of helping save the boy, he calmly said the boy had accidentally slipped and fallen. Everyone was suspicious and didn't believe him. Then Anthony stepped out of the crowd, casually took out his phone to text, and rolled a cigarette. Police arrived and realized Anthony's statement contradicted other witness accounts. so they arrested him. In the first interrogation, Anthony said he was sitting on the bench at the cliff top, smoking, when the boy suddenly came near the edge and accidentally fell. Police suspected Anthony had pushed the boy. However, Anthony was released because police didn't have enough evidence to charge him. At this time, the boy was still in critical condition, and the police's goal was to investigate why Anthony had tried to harm the boy. They examined his background and interviewed people who knew him. Very quickly, the overall picture of the case began to become clearer. After interviewing the boy's family, police gained the girl's trust, so she began sharing everything. The brave girl told police about the times Anthony had abused her and her feelings. Not only that, she also clearly described the times her brother had protected her and prevented bad situations. For this reason, Anthony had planned to eliminate the boy. Police also contacted Anthony's psychological counselor, learning about their conversations and Anthony's obsession with control. The investigation lasted 14 months, and finally, Anthony was arrested again on November 23, 2023. The defense lawyer declared to police that Anthony wasn't interested in children and had no wrongdoing with either the boy or girl. When asked about the incident at the cliff, he claimed he couldn't remember details of that day. Finally, Anthony was charged with 4 counts of abuse, attempted murder, along with other charges. What strange and angered public opinion was that despite being suspected of very serious crimes, he was released on bail until the trial. The reason was that he was considered a vulnerable elderly person who could be in danger in custody. This was a very strange and frustrating decision from the authorities. The trial began on Monday, May 20, 2024, at the Crown Court. Anthony denied all charges and declared his innocence. Throughout the trial, part of his defense was that he went to the cliff that day because the scenery was beautiful, like in the film Quadrophenia, a film the boy really wanted to see. Anthony also claimed he was a vulnerable elderly person and that the girl was the one who initiated contact with him. He tried to prove that the girl had touched him, and although he told her to stay away, she wouldn't stop. Clearly, Anthony was lying, and fortunately, the jury wasn't fooled. Both the boy and girl stood before the court and testified about Anthony's abuse of them. Many reporters present praised the children's courage. The girl said that her brother had tried his best to protect his sister from the pervert Anthony. They truly needed more protection, and families must pay more attention to their children. On June 6, 2024, the jury found Anthony guilty of all charges. The judge sentenced him to life imprisonment with a minimum term of 19 years and 6 months. This means Anthony will be eligible for release when he turns 74. Afterward, the judge said that Anthony Stocks had heard about the trauma the boy had endured and would continue to endure throughout his life. It was an inhumane act that left an indelible pain. He had acted ruthlessly just to cover up his depraved behavior with the girl. He had taken advantage of a weak, vulnerable girl to satisfy his sick pleasures. The girl will be haunted for life and doesn't dare think about the long future ahead. He had destroyed the lives of 2 children. However, after hearing these words, Anthony still showed no remorse. Throughout the trial, he showed no signs of repentance. Besides Anthony receiving a life sentence, another positive outcome of the case was that both children were placed in the child protection system. This will give them a more stable and better life than what they had before. The public wished for the children's parents to also be punished for neglecting their children, but as this was a case in England, they won't be prosecuted. The boy will have to endure physical after effects for several years to come. And although both children are receiving psychological treatment, they will carry this pain and period of time with them for the rest of their lives. What do you think about this pervert's disgusting actions? Please leave your opinions in the comment section below so we can discuss together. And before leaving, don't forget to like, follow the channel, and turn on notifications to not miss the next classic cases on the Crime Channel.